Max Verstappen is just one race away from becoming a four-time Formula One world champion. With a 62-point lead and only 86 points left in play, the Dutchman could secure the title as early as Las Vegas, ending Lando Norris's hopes for good. However, what truly grabbed attention this week was McLaren's surprising statement. According to the team, the driver's title was never really a priority in 2024. This is a curious claim, especially after all the team orders throughout the year favoring Norris, including at Interlagos. Could the team just be trying to soften the blow of defeat? Let's break down exactly what Verstappen needs to do in Las Vegas to secure his fourth world title. He currently holds a 62-point lead over Norris and needs to leave Sin City with at least a 60-point margin to be crowned champion mathematically. The math is relatively simple. If Verstappen finishes ahead of Norris, regardless of position, the title is secured. Even if he finishes behind the Brit, he can still afford to lose up to 2 points and take the trophy. To keep the championship alive, Norris needs to gain at least 3 points on Verstappen. To put it more clearly, if Verstappen finishes in second place, Norris would need to win the race. If the Red Bull driver is third, Norris would need to at least finish in second. And even if Verstappen doesn't score points, Norris would need to finish at least in ninth with the fastest lap to push the decision to Qatar. These scenarios show just how tough it will be for the McLaren driver to keep his chances alive. Speaking of McLaren, the team surprised everyone this week with a rather controversial statement. Andrea Stella, the team principal, claimed that the driver's title was always secondary to the Constructors' Championship. According to him, even when decisions had to be made about supporting one driver over the other, the priority was always to maximize points for the team. The timing of this statement is particularly interesting, coming right after Norris's title chances were severely reduced following the Brazilian GP. Stella tried to ease the pressure on his driver, saying there was no particular pressure on Lando, and that the team was just enjoying this pursuit of the title. A narrative that seems crafted to protect their star driver from the weight of seeing the championship slip through his fingers. However, McLaren's actions throughout the season tell a different story. Just look at the Brazilian GP, where Oscar Piastri was instructed to give up his position to Norris during the sprint. This wasn't an isolated case. Throughout the year, we've seen systematic team orders favoring Norris over Piastri, even when the Australian was in a better position on track. On multiple previous occasions, the team made it clear they intended to fight for the title until the end. The car's development throughout the season was clearly focused on keeping Norris competitive against Verstappen. McLaren even brought 7 different rear-wing configurations this year, a massive investment in development that suggests a far more ambitious goal than just the Constructors' Championship. Piastri himself admitted several times that his role was to support Norris's title quest, as we saw clearly in Brazil when he gave up his position during the sprint, saying it showed what the short and long-term goals are. A statement that directly contradicts the team's new narrative about its priorities. This shift in McLaren's messaging also raises questions about the psychological impact on Lando Norris. Martin Brundle, a former driver and respected commentator, questioned whether the Brit has the killer instinct needed to fight Verstappen. It's a harsh critique, but one that resonates with recent events. In Brazil, we saw Norris making the same mistakes, especially on restarts, where he lost crucial positions that compromised his race. Although Andrea Stella denies that pressure has affected his driver's performance, it's impossible to ignore the pattern established in recent races. Norris started the season brilliantly, taking impressive wins in Zandvoort and Singapore, but seems to have lost a bit of that spark right when the title chances became more real. As Brundle pointed out, he lacks the experience of contending for a world championship, and this is a whole new set of challenges and rules, something he will learn from this season. Looking to the immediate future, McLaren already admits that Las Vegas might favor Ferrari, a high-speed circuit that may not perfectly suit the MCL38's characteristics. The team's hopes lie in the final races in Qatar and Abu Dhabi, tracks that, according to Stella, should be more favorable for the McLaren car. But at this stage, it may be too late for any comeback in the Drivers' Championship. The reality is that Red Bull and Verstappen seem to have regained their winning ways at the most critical moment. The Dutchman showed in Interlagos that his hunger for victories remains intact, and the chance to seal his 4th title in Las Vegas adds an extra layer of motivation. As Helmut Marko said after Brazil, "Here, you could see who the real champion is." Meanwhile, McLaren will have to balance its ambitions in the Constructors' Championship, where they hold a 36-point lead over Ferrari, with the challenge of keeping Norris motivated for the final races. A task made even more complex by the team's recent statements about their priorities. Another interesting point in this final stretch is how Red Bull managed to silence the critics. After weeks of questions about wing flexibility and bib adjustments, the team raised its own suspicions about its rivals. In particular, the theory about using water in the tires for temperature control sparked intense debates in the paddock. Red Bull believes it identified signs of this procedure after the Singapore GP, where it noticed watermarks on some wheel rims. The team argues that a small amount of liquid, perhaps only 50 grams, could be used to transfer heat from the tires to the rims. The FIA is already investigating the situation, although no evidence has been found so far. Ironically, this controversial technique comes just as Verstappen is about to clinch the title. As Christian Horner put it, "The best answer is to do it on the track, and that's exactly what Max did today." A statement that perfectly sums up how Red Bull preferred to respond with performance rather than technical speculation from its rivals. It's also worth noting that the Milton Keynes team seems to have found solutions to its recent development issues. Red Bull, which hadn't won since June, showed in Interlagos that the improvements implemented on the RB20 finally paid off. Horner was emphatic in saying, "The most encouraging thing in that race was that the pace was decent." The Austrian team also seems to have solved its tire wear issues, an area that had been hindering its performance in recent races. With a more competitive car and an extremely motivated Verstappen, the combination seems perfect to seal the title in Las Vegas in style. Formula One has taught us many times that nothing is guaranteed until the final checkered flag. But as Las Vegas prepares to possibly crown Verstappen as a four-time world champion, we're witnessing a series of fascinating narratives unfold. On one side, we have McLaren attempting to rewrite its season story, downplaying the title pursuit that was so evident throughout the year. On the other, a Red Bull that responded to criticisms and technical controversies in the best way possible, with pure performance on the track. The 2024 season will be remembered not only for Verstappen's probable historic victory, but also for how the technical and psychological battles were as intense as the on-track rivalries. While Red Bull seems to have found its best form at the most critical moment, McLaren will have to deal with the consequences of a narrative shift that could impact not only the present, but also its future with Lando Norris. Perhaps the greatest lesson from this championship is that, in modern Formula One, having just a fast car or a talented driver isn't enough. It takes technical consistency, mental strength, and above all, honesty about your own goals. Don't forget to leave your like and share your opinions in the comments. What do you think about this final stretch of the season? Will Verstappen clinch the title in Vegas? And what's your take on McLaren's change in narrative? Let me know what you think. Thanks, and see you next time.